Messieurs, veuillez accueillir votre député de Longueuil, Charlemagne, Sherry Romanado. Ladies and gentlemen, the MP for Longueuil, Charlemagne, Sherry Romanado.
Good afternoon, Liberals. Bienvenue, les libéraux. Okay, you can do better than that. Bonjour, les libéraux. Bonjour, je suis Sherry Romanado, députée de Longueuil-Charlemagne et secrétaire parlementaire du ministre d'Anciens combattants et ministre associé de la Défense nationale. C'est vraiment un plaisir d'être ici encore à Halifax. J'ai visité l'an dernier pour visiter la base militaire pour parler avec les troupes et j'ai même eu un petit tour de NCSM Montréal. Our next guest, who I will formally introduce in a moment, has many fans. Many of them are here today. And one that really comes to mind is little Sophia Poplar, who came to Ottawa on Canada Day in 2016 at the age of 2 to meet her hero. Not realizing that ministers don't actually sleep on Parliament Hill, she didn't get to meet him that day because, of course, he was in his riding for Canada Day. Well, Sophia was in tears. Her parents posted the video of Sophia's disappointment on social media. Well, Harj, as we like to call him, wouldn't have any of that. So he sent out his own little video inviting Sophia and her family to join him for a tour of Parliament Hill. Now, this next picture captures who our guest today is more than anything I can say. Now, don't let that picture fool you. Harjit Sajjan est un lieutenant-colonel à la retraite des Forces armées canadiennes et un ancien combattant. Il a été déployé en Bosnie et a servi à 3 reprises à Kandahar, en Afghanistan. Harjit a reçu de nombreuses récompenses militaires, notamment la médaille de service méritoire pour avoir contré l'influence des talibans dans la province de Kandahar. Il a aussi reçu l'Ordre du mérite militaire, l'une des plus hautes distinctions militaires. Par ailleurs, Harjit a agi comme aide-de-camp de lieutenant-gouverneur de Colombie-Britannique. Harjit, qui a immigré au Canada avec sa famille quand il y avait 5 ans, a grandi dans Vancouver-Sud, profitant de tout ce que notre communauté diversifiée et culturellement riche a offrir. Pendant 11 ans, Harjit a été membre des services de police de Vancouver, travaillant essentiellement dans Vancouver-Sud. Elle a terminé sa carrière comme détective pour l'unité de gangsterisme. Le 19 octobre 2015, Harjit a été élu député de Vancouver-Sud. And on November 4th, 2015, Lieutenant Colonel Harjit Sajjan was sworn in as the Minister of National Defense. And it's in this capacity that I'm honored to introduce Harjit Sajjan. You see, I'm the mother of 2 serving members of the Canadian Armed Forces, and I trust Harj literally with my sons' lives. They say that when a member serves, their family serves with them, and I believe that to be true. I can tell you firsthand how much he cares about the members of the Canadian Armed Forces and their families. Based on feedback from thousands of Canadians during the Defense Policy Review, I'm proud to say that military families are predominantly featured in our new defense policy, Strong, Secure, Engaged. I've had the great pleasure of visiting 12 bases and wings over the past year to talk to our troops, fellow military families, and veterans. And I've heard firsthand how happy military families and our troops are to know that they are recognized by our government and our Minister of National Defense. Now, here's another little personal story about Harj. Not sure if you knew that the Minister of National Defense is also the Chancellor of the Royal Military College in Kingston. Well, in that capacity, he knew that my oldest son was going to be graduating in May 2016. So you can imagine how proud I was to be at my son's ceremony with Harj, to watch him graduate from RMC and to receive his commission with the Canadian Armed Forces. Now, I'm pretty sure that he got some pretty big kudos from his classmates to see that his mother was there with the Minister of National Defense. I think I'm going to get some good gifts out of this one. Donc, sans plus tarder, j'aimerais vous présenter le député de Vancouver Sud, your Minister of National Defense, my colleague and friend, the Honorable Harjit Sajjan.
I know. Thank you, Sherry. Ladies and gentlemen, you know the force that Sherry is. She's a force to be reckoned with. I just have a privilege to be able to work with Sherry. Thank you very much. And it was actually a privilege to be introduced to her sons who serve in the Canadian Armed Forces. Bonjour tout le monde. C'est un plaisir d'être ici et à Halifax aujourd'hui. It's a great a privilege to be here with all of you today, ladies and gentlemen. I wish to first acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq peoples. And I want to thank my good friend Andy Fillmore for hosting us here in Halifax. And I also want to acknowledge and give a great shout out to all those who are watching online. Now, I was feeling like it was home in Vancouver because of the rain when I came in last night, but then I woke up this morning and it started snowing and it reminded me of Ottawa. Nothing against Ottawa, but you know, when I come to Halifax, it's on the coastline. I want to feel like at home here. So, and I'll be honest with you, one other aspect. When I was asked to speak for 20 minutes, and I was wondering how I'm going to keep an audience like with so much energy engaged for 20 minutes. Okay, so please bear with me, and I'm going to try. And I know, but it is incredibly humbling to be standing here in front of all of you. Now, when I look at all of you, it is a reminder of how far we have come together, and the key word being together. At the last convention, our party had been in government for just about less than a year. And now, it is hard to believe that we are just about a year and a half away from the next election. Now, that excites me. I'm actually looking forward to getting out there and knocking on doors, talking to Canadians on what is working and what changes need to be made. But I have to confess, though, when I decided to run, I was nervous. I was nervous to go door knocking and main streeting. Now, putting yourself out there, it's not easy, and you guys know that. But especially when you live my life, when you lived your life in the shadows, it was extremely nervous of going out there, knocking on people's doors. And I knocked on many doors as a police officer, but it was a little different. And that time, no one could say no for me entering their house. But it was completely different. But after a few sessions of door knocking, I not only became comfortable with it, it was the thing that I enjoyed the most in campaigning. I got to meet so many Canadians from all walks of life, talking about their concerns and their desires. But what made it even more special was that I got to go door knocking with so many of my team members who wanted to make a difference. So friends, I want to thank all of you, not just who are here today, but who are watching, and everybody from across Canada, but especially my team in Vancouver for their extraordinary hard work. And let's please give a shout out to everyone. Thank you. So as I stand before you, I know how much work has brought us to this point. We can show Canadians what we have accomplished and what we are continuing to do to create a real change and build the middle class. And I want to personally thank each and every one of you for your support for the past 2 years, and thank you in advance for all the work that you're going to be doing for the run-up for the 2019 election. And it is because of you we have made it this far. We work hard because we want to create a better Canada for our neighbors and our families. We want to show the world that Canadians value diversity and will lend a hand when it is needed. And we're living up to this every single day. When we were elected, we saw a military that did not have the resources it needed. Across the country, recruiting offices had been closed. Our women and men did not have the right equipment they needed to do their jobs or keep them safe. And our naval capabilities were at a 40-year low. Ships were retired without replacement. Our veterans were left behind. And the defense budget was neglected. Under the Conservatives, cuts were introduced at the expense of our people in uniform and the families that stood with them. The Conservative Strategic Review and Deficit Reduction Action Plan together reduced the defense budget by $2 billion per year. So our party recognized that our women and men deserve better. Where the Conservatives retreated, we took action. Where the New Democrats would have been timid, we have been bold. And as we promised in our platform, we overhauled our defense policy. We promised to provide long-term, predictable, and sustainable funding for our military, and we have delivered on that by adding an additional $63 billion over the next 20 years for our women and men in the Canadian Armed Forces. We knew that we could not do this alone, though. That is why we consulted Canadians every step of the way. And they came out in droves to share their stories and their vision for what they saw in their military, their Canadian Armed Forces, what they wanted to look like, what they wanted to do. And the Defense Policy Review was the most comprehensive public consultation in Canadian defense history. And that is why it was a success. All of us in this room know firsthand that listening to Canadians is how you make real change. And that is what the 2015 campaign taught us. It is because of people like you who took the time to knock on doors and to have those important conversations. Canadians knew that their voices were being heard for the very first time in over a decade. And we took those lessons from the campaign and applied them to the way we govern. It is those types of conversations that resulted in the first defense policy of its kind, strong, secure, and engaged, that looks after its people. This new defense policy puts the women and men of the military at its core. It puts our women and men in uniform front and center, because we know that even the most well-equipped militaries in the world is nothing without its people. We plan to grow the Canadian Armed Forces by nearly 5,000 people for the next 5 years. That means more technicians, mechanics, cooks, sailors, airwomen and men, cyber operators, linguists, doctors, and specialists. And I see my good friend Steve Furst sitting over there as a former fighter pilot of the Canadian Armed Forces. We need more pilots. Why? You see, the Harper Conservatives wanted to buy only 65 fighter aircraft. But our analysis showed us that we actually needed 88 fighters so that we can actually live up to our NORAD and NATO commitments. Leave it to the Conservatives to talk a big game when it comes to looking after the military, but then not put the money where it's needed for the simple reason of wanting to balance the budget before the next election. Canadians across the country told us to look after our women and men in uniform. And our new defense policy does just that. Because behind each of our military members is a family who sacrifices to ensure that our women and men in uniform can protect our country and the values that we hold so dear. We have invested in the military family resource centers in communities across our nation to make sure that our families are well taken care of. Families will have better child and youth programs, community services, and health care at their fingertips. And Sherry Romanado, who you just heard from, has been particularly engaged on this. And in fact, just last week, I went to MFRC in Winnipeg and saw firsthand how these community centers are supporting our military families. And I met a classroom of animated kids, just like kids everywhere. And they were running around, they were having a great time, and I was immediately attacked by dinosaurs, and they were, some of the kids started, one of the kids actually was teaching me the lyrics to Paw Patrol, and they were more excited that I actually knew what Paw Patrol was, because I watched Paw Patrol with my son. And it just reminded me of where our members in the Canadian Armed Forces get their energy from their families. And what that experience shows is that the military families are just like any other. They need support and care to thrive. And that is exactly what we are delivering on. We owe them no less. We owe our veterans no less either. When our women and men are ready to leave the forces to the next career or retirement, we want to make sure that transition is as easy as possible. And that's why Seamus and I are working together to streamline the services of the Canadian Armed Forces members and our veterans. We also reintroduced the Pension for Life to give our veterans monthly benefits for life in recognition of their service and the danger that they can face throughout their career. We asked a lot of our veterans, and we ask a lot of our women and men who serve us, which is why we need to make sure that they are well equipped. So to me, there is no difference when between investing in our equipment and investing in our people. When we invest in new rifles that protect our North, that is an investment in our Canadian Rangers. When we commit to buying the ships our Navy needs to thrive, that is an investment in our sailors. When we deliver on new armored vehicles for our Army, that is an investment in our soldiers. And we cannot just buy any equipment. We need to buy the right equipment. And these investments will give our serving Canadian Armed Forces members the right tools they need to keep us safe. And this policy commits the vision, our vision, for the long term, with a long-term focus on our people. So Liberals, our women and men in the Canadian Armed Forces are the closest thing that we have to superheroes. I am a comic book fan. I'm going to tell you why. Not just because they wear a uniform, but because they are the final resources in our time of need. There is no one else beyond them. Whether it's they're during a flood, they come save you during a forest fire, or helping a nation defend itself from the evil of ISIS. They are our superheroes. So just as we count on our military can count on Canadians to invest in them and their families for the decades to come. That is the difference between us and the other parties. We invest in our people for the long term, and we make sure that those investments are smart. When we put our people first, it's noticed. The world is asking our talented women and men to re-engage in the places they are needed. In Latvia, we are supporting our NATO allies as they watch over a more aggressive and reckless Russian Federation. In Ukraine, we are helping our friends maintain their sovereignty by training their forces. In the Middle East, we are doing our part to bring an end to the fear and chaos that ISIS has caused. And this summer, we're providing tactical airlift capacity for our United Nations allies out of Entebbe, Uganda, as well as helicopters in Mali for our armed medical airlift and support. Under the last Harper Conservative government, Canada's position on the world stage was as an all-time low. Now, back then, we were not doing our part. Well, let me echo one thing that the Prime Minister has said often. Liberals, Canada is back. We are not only the ones to saying this, and tomorrow you will hear from my good friend, retired General Romeo Dallaire, who will speak about Canada's renewed commitment to peacekeeping. He will tell you about the Vancouver Principles, which I'm extremely proud of, which are aimed at preventing the recruitment and the use of child soldiers. And so far, more than 60 countries have signed on. That is the kind of leadership we mean when we talk about Canada's re-engagement in the world. Canadians have a lot to contribute, but we need to do it differently, and we must do it smart. We must do it in a way that plays to our strengths. And that is why we focus on diversity, because our diversity is our greatest strength. And let me give you an example of how adding a new voice can make a difference. And let me share a story of a remarkable woman, and Vancouver's own Elsie McGill. She was the world's first female aeronautical engineer. She received her first degree in 1927, and she did not look back. She did not let polio stop her, and she definitely did not let sexism stop her. She became the chief aeronautical engineer at a company that built thousands of Royal Air Force planes for the World War II war effort. She helped create an industry that still provides well-paying middle-class jobs for Canadians. She had so much confidence in her ability that she accompanied pilots on every test flight they did in her aircraft. Elsie overcame barriers, and it is important that we remember trailblazers like her. But it's also important to recognize that the barrier should never have been there in the first place. And we need to encourage this success, not stop it. And she was also known for fighting for women's rights as well. And that is why the Elsie Initiative was created in her honor, a program that has helped change the way the world looks at peace operations. And my good friend, Chrystia Freeland, has championed this on the world stage. Having women in the ranks of our peacekeeping opens new doors. It allows us to go places where we could not go before and brings a new perspective that adds immense value to our operations. And it reduces conflict. We are working to increase the number of women, Indigenous peoples, and minorities in the Canadian Armed Forces for that very same reason. As I told you earlier about my trip that I did to the Family Resource Center in Winnipeg just a little while ago, well, what I didn't tell you was that earlier that day, I had the honor to participate in a signing ceremony of an agreement in principle to divest much of DND's Campion Barracks land to the Treaty 1 First Nations in Manitoba. And it was an emotional experience for both Jim Carr and I. Some elders had waited for that day for more than 50 years. The chiefs of each nation that fought hard for that land were there. And for the busloads of youth who came out, that land represents an opportunity for their future. The emotion of that day also was twofold. I heard time and time again the pride with which the nation of the Treaty 1 held for their veterans. They made a point to note that they had contributed to the defense of Canada and the defense of their treaty for more than 150 years. Indigenous soldiers like Tommy George Prince of Treaty 1 fought with bravery throughout history. And in fact, Tommy is one of Canada's most decorated soldiers and even fought at the Battle of Campion. The thousands of Indigenous women and men have served with great pride in our military, and their service have made us stronger. We must continue doing more to build our ranks and bring in more diverse voices and represent the Canada that we serve. I want to leave with you a few final thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, I truly believe that every child on this planet has a unique gift to offer this world. A gift that can make our world better. Some will find their gift on their own, and some will need mentors to help develop that gift. Some of us, like myself, took a lot of mentors. But it is up to us. It is up to us to create the environment, create that future, so they can put their unique gift to good use. And if any of you think that one child can't make a difference in this world, just think of Malala. And you know her story. The Taliban shot her in the head in an attempt to prevent her from going to school. Well, now, she is making it possible for girls to go to school around the world. And this is why we are here today. We are here because of people like her and people like her around the world. We are working to empower our children to succeed. We are working to make sure that middle-class families have a better future. We are working to make a better Canada for everyone. These are the stakes. And we can be proud of what we have accomplished. But we have a lot of work left to do. And we cannot do it without you. So the next campaign is going to be critical. I'm asking you to keep going door knocking, and please come out with me. And keep talking to your friends, because we want to ask for your ideas and your vision. I'm asking you to fight for what you believe in, because together, we can make a difference. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.